I just saw, because I've been trying to get into the D&D, that there was a D&D person named Arcadum who had allegations made against him that I think might have ended his career, or at least put a pause to it. He allegedly was toxic and harassed and slept with or badgered to sleep with other people that were playing D&D with him. He was the dungeon master and had, I think, a position of power relatively within the group because it was his channel and he determined who would get to play. And a number of the women recorded Discord calls with him. And he comes, I listened to a couple before I was like, this is kind of fucked up. Listening to a call that one person knows is being recorded and the other doesn't. I was like, I understand that this might be the only way to be believed, but it also needs to be taken with a huge grain of salt. So I'm just going to try to throw this out. That said, he did sound like, in those moments, a total ass. But, you know, who knows when one person knows that there's a recording and the other person doesn't. But it is, again, strange. As I sat there, I was like, we have just totally accepted. Like, what state did this occur in? Do we know the consent laws with privacy and single-way record? Like, where was this? Is anybody concerned that any phone call that they might be having might be discussed with everyone else? Not saying that this guy is a good person, by the way.
Well, I mean, but if you think that their crime is heinous, then of course you don't care.
Mm-hmm.
If I illegally recorded a serial killer.
Well, some of the crimes were, I think they would state as like being controlling, verbally abusive, asshole, but certainly nothing jail, in many of the allegations.
But here's what I'm saying. Think of the extreme. I illegally record a serial killer and I get them caught. Everyone applauds it, right?
Yeah.
There's a level of deplorable behavior that we think is admirable.
Skip the rules.
To illegally record.
Yeah. That
you should do it. I could bust a child sex slave ring by doing something illegal. That's encouraged, right? Mm-hmm. By most people, maybe not by police, but by most people, they say, yeah, do it. Do the illegally recorded if it gets that behavior stopped. So then the question is, how deplorable do you think this behavior is? And I think for people who think that it's awful to do what he was doing, then of course it makes sense. Like, great, you illegally recorded someone doing something awful. So the question just becomes, how awful
does this person perceive it? Yeah.
Yeah. Not even how awful is the behavior, because I have no idea who this guy is, but how awful is the person consuming the story? How often do they think the behavior is? And if they think it's awful, then of course they don't give a crap that it's been illegally recorded, because
I don't think it's just that. I think that when we, listening to the Donald Sterling thing, where you hear him saying you can date black guys, but you can't bring him to the game, to the girl that he is pretending to be in a relationship with, I guess technically in a relationship with, but she's 40 years younger than him. I don't think there was a consideration as for how bad is what he's saying. I think it's a complete lack of empathy for somebody recording you and playing that conversation on the news. I think most people consuming these stories, be getting outraged, could not possibly conceive of someone in a relationship with them recording them and having that make national or international news.
I also don't remember what Donald Sterling said, but I imagine that the people who were, I imagine that they were extremely upset by the racism in the statement. Mm-hmm. So they don't care if it was grabbed illegally, because in their minds, saying this at all is awful. And so who cares if we got this information illegally?
Well, okay, take the Rachel Nichols, where she was basically saying, I believe in diversity, but not my job. So stop handing my job away. I mean, I don't think people thought, again, I don't know that there's a real, to me, I understand what you're saying, that if
well, I think people did push back for her and say this was recorded illegally and shouldn't be used to fire her.
I guess I think they pushed back and said that, not that. They said what she did wasn't so bad, so don't fire her. But they didn't say, hey, the way that you obtained this ought to be thrown out, which is what a court of law might have done. And I don't know the state laws in Florida where she was, or in the place where the server farm was, particularly. But I guess what I am noting is nobody gives a shit about other people's privacy anymore. Like no one
cares.
All.
I don't think many people care about their own privacy. Everyone who gets TikTok.
This is the thing with Edward Snowden, man. That guy laid his life on the line, being like, once I expose this to the American people, surely they will rise up and realize that the NSA is recording all of their calls, and they will not tolerate it. And no one budged. No one cared.
And I think it's not bad math, honestly. I think most people think to themselves, I don't need to be concerned about privacy, because what I'm doing isn't so bad. I'm not doing committing murders or something like that. And so because of my relative level of non-fame, the only thing that I could possibly get in trouble for would be a heinous crime. Mm-hmm. So I don't care. Look at my texts. Oh, I make jokes you don't like? No one is ever going to care that Bob in the middle of Pennsylvania sends a joke that maybe is inappropriate, because there's no money in canceling me. There's no, those headlines will never get clicked. No one cares. So the only thing that matters, and for privacy, is if you're Jeffrey Dahmer and you're doing something awful, or if you're famous, at which point making an inappropriate joke is salacious enough to become news. Mm-hmm. And so most people do the math and go, all right, well, I'm not Jeffrey Dahmer and I'm not famous, so I don't care. So I don't think they care about other people's privacy or their own privacy.
Yeah. And it's I guess the same thing that's been happening for years with paparazzi, which is like, of course I wouldn't like that if that happened to me, but I can't conceive of this person as a real human being, so I'll buy the tabloid because it interests me. You know?
Yeah, exactly. I'm baffled by that, because I think paparazzi, the fact that what they do, I understand how the law protects them, but it is wild what they can get away with. But no, the people who buy the tabloids would hate if they were treated like the people in the tabloid. Mm-hmm. But they just know that'll never happen because they're not on the path to being famous, so they don't mind funding the thing that they would absolutely hate happening to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually think people don't care about privacy for themselves.
Yeah. So, well, I guess what I should
see that with Alexa, Siri, TikTok, all this stuff. Like we're all being recorded all the time and no one minds.
I will try not, and I did click off of this, to listen to privately recorded conversations, regardless of state law, just because like I'll try to be the change I want to see in the world, because, the person whose video I watched got a 0.001 AdSense, and that contributed to the algorithm and it contributed to the spreading of it. So yeah, I think for me, it's if this is a private conversation that was recorded and it's not about breaking up a child pedophile ring, just don't click it. Don't listen to it. Don't have an opinion on it. You oughtn't have been there, and it's none of your business. And perhaps this is the golden rule: you wouldn't like it positions reversed. You wouldn't like a single recording conversation of you being an asshole, which, by the way, I have been in my life.
What about what about the opposite argument, though, which is if I don't listen to this, I'll keep watching this guy's channel, and I don't want to fund someone who does this stuff. So if he is not doing anything illegal, but is using his position in a way that I find inappropriate to pressure people into sex, I don't want him to have a position of power. But if he wasn't doing that and he was just running this show, then I don't mind funding him. So I need to know if he's doing that behavior, because I don't want to give him my AdSense.
Yeah.
If he's going to use his power to do what I think is legal but bad behavior and pressure people. And so there's an argument to be made that you want to know this stuff because you want to know who you're going to fund with your eyeballs.
I think it's an interesting counterpoint. I suppose what comes to mind for me is that the underlying reason that appeals to me, and I think so many others, is because it creates a bad guy out there and a good guy here. And you get to go, oh, I've never done that. You know what I mean? Like this couldn't happen to me because I never did that, and I've never had that call. But I think if we go a little bit broader and we go, have you ever been really unkind to someone that you loved? You know what I mean? Have you ever like just been a total jerk? And have you ever done something that would make people, if they listened to 10 minutes of you, not want to support you if that was their experience of you, and they believed that was representative? The answer for me is yes. I've every time I play League of Legends,
poor Henry,
poor brother. Oh my gosh, if he ever records me screaming at him in League of Legends,
brother on brother violence,
brother on brother. And thank God that I know he would never. I know that's
what you think.
But I think if everybody took that broader view of their life and like, I haven't done this particular thing, but have I ever been such a jerk, so unkind, so callous, so whatever, that if somebody clipped that 15 minutes of me, that it would make people not want to associate with me? For me, the answer is yes. I have been that way. And I think the answer is yes for everybody else. And if you're out there, which I know sometimes happen when I say things like this, feeling superior to me because you go, not me, I think you're so wrong. Like I'm trying to set this up like if you, but yes, all of us are in this camp of having done that. So yeah, I will try to avoid those sorts of things but I do understand what you're saying. You're like, hey, there's probably appropriate boycotts if you knew what was going on behind closed doors, even if it wasn't
just because illegal. You don't want to fund them.
Yeah.
Because your view is their source of power. And
Sure.
you're going, I don't like when this person has power.
Yeah, like R. Kelly or somebody did, say that he doesn't wind up going to jail, and you're like, maybe I should stop listening to him, but I'm not going to know because.
I think there's people. I think I mean, this is going to be so obvious, but it's a spectrum, and it depends on the behavior. You know, I don't know this person's story, but there's certainly, like, it's bad to be illegally recorded. I 100%.
Well, I will say that the court of law, for all of its, I mean, it is pretty brilliant, and it says, look, if you get evidence and it's damning, and it was gotten in the wrong way, we throw it out. Like that is how we do it, because the structure of how we go about learning things about the world is more important than any particular verdict. Sure. And so I think that there's wisdom to that. That, like, you know what, maybe I will listen to I Believe I Can Fly, and I'll be
but they also do
supporting.
They also do wiretaps. They just might be smart enough to make sure they wiretap in public.
They get a federal warrant. No, there's you can wiretap. You can do that, but a judge needs to say you have enough reason to do so.
Sure, I'm just saying it's not like you can't record someone who doesn't know they're being recorded.
I mean, with the Patriot Act, you could do anything you want. This is what Edward Snowden was trying to say, is that all of those protections are now gone, and they just are going to selectively point the finger. Hope that you guys enjoyed that clip. If you want to see more like this and have us do more podcasts, we are 100% funded by our generous patrons. And if you'd like to contribute, there's a link in the description, and we'll have one pop up on the screen right here so that we can do more podcasts where we have fun conversations and hopefully some deep ones like this. Either way, hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in the next one.